This episode is brought to you by the Lash Boss newsletter. If you would like to receive a monthly newsletter from me, written by me, not AI, never sponsored, no ads included, and no spam too. Like, it's really just once a month that I send something out. It includes upcoming lash events, lash tips and trends, artists to watch, ones that are up and coming and that I have been finding valuable, and even books that I'm reading at the moment that are helping me run my business. Then subscribe to Lash Boss newsletter. Like I said, I send it out only once monthly, and it's packed with a ton of information that any lash artist would find valuable. You can subscribe at the link in the show notes or on my Instagram or on lashbossradio.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lash Boss Radio. I'm Shelby, your host, and today I am joined by Brandi Fulton, Brandi the beauty accountant, and we're going to talk about all of the missing things that you guys might be doing in your business and how Brandi could possibly help you, especially going into 2024. Welcome to the show, Brandi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, this is a first for me. We've never had an accountant on the show. I feel like this is kind of a subject that us in this industry just shy away from and like hope we're doing it correctly. So I'm actually really excited. Just to start, can I first ask like what got you into accounting and like why are you specializing in, the beauty industry?
Yeah, so what really got me into accounting was that my mom is a single mother of four. So like my mom's a nurse. She was always struggling to like pay bills and like get us to do um, activities. So like I always saw, even when I was younger, I'm like, my mom's always working. Like there's a disconnect. Like why aren't we like living a little bit better life? Or like why, aren't we able to travel? So I always said I want to do something in like the finance field. I didn't know exactly what it was. And then when I went to high school, there was like a program in high school called F FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, and they like kind of gave you insight on like the whole business aspect, marketing, accounting, um, management. So like we would go to like different schools and do those type of little pop-up shows and things. So I was like, okay, tax and accounting seems interested. I'm still a high school student. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I want to do. But then when I went to college, I volunteered for the VITA program, which is a tax prep program for people in low income areas to prepare their taxes for free for them. So as I was doing it, also saw there was a disconnect between like people really understanding where a tax refund is and like, why they're getting this refund or why they owe money to the IRS. So that I was like, all right, this is kind of my area because it kind of ties back to like, when I was earlier, when my mom wasn't making, as much money, I was like, all right, there's always like a disconnect in the accounting field. Like, what can I do to like help educate our people? Because even though they're getting the taxes prepared for free, a lot of people thought like that was free money from the IRS. So I was like, all right, let me do this. And then of course, broke college student, I learned how to do taxes. That was like my hustle in college. I was like charging everybody $50, preparing taxes on campus. But I also learned that when you're a college student, you can get like a credit for education credit. So I was like the go-to girl on campus for those 4 years. And it really just was more than just like, all right, preparing. It was like the education part behind it.
So cool. Is there a reason why you lean to beauty professionals now?
Yeah, so my husband's a barber. We tried to buy a house in 2017. He's been a barber since we met back in 2011. But we tried to buy a house. I was working in corporate, doing my business on the side, and he was a full-time entrepreneur. And they were like, "Okay, you got your W-2s, you're approved. Where's your husband's tax returns? Where's his financial statements?" And I'm like, uh here's his cash in the bank, like we don't have anything.
Yeah.
And it was just a disconnect. So even though I was working in corporate, I wasn't doing like corporate taxes. It was more like just financial planning. So I was like, dang, I'm an accountant. My husband's an entrepreneur, and like his books aren't even up to date. So like, how can I help him out? And just going through the process with him getting, cleaned up. How can he get approved for the mortgage? Creating financial statements. I was like, if my husband's going through this, how many other beauty professionals are going through the same thing? Because just the questions he was asking me, like, I don't know, I don't have invoices. Like people just pay me in cash or they just cash at me and tell me, and then I just spend the money out. I'm like, how many other people are operating this, the same way? I know he's making money, he's paying the bills, right? But
Mhm.
just because the disconnect of like, okay, what you really need to be doing to operate as a legitimate business versus like a hobby, that part was what was missing within his business.
Yes, I feel like I could probably answer this question for you, but what is the biggest like missing pieces you do feel like you're seeing even today, like in our industry when it comes
Yeah,
to account?
I think the biggest part is just like organizing and understanding your finances. Like we, as you know, like the beauty industry, we make so much money, right? You know, y'all are like special. Y'all know how to do the craft and provide the service, but like the back end part of like organizing your finances, having the proper bank accounts, having the proper credit cards, like all that part is missing. But that's also because of due to the lack of education. They don't teach you that in cosmetology school and lash school. They're just like, okay, this is how you provide the services. This is how you do lashes. This is how you do hair. This is how you do, all those things. They don't say, okay, this is how you run a business. It's not outside of providing the service. These are the things you need to get done legally. These are the things you need to get done with your taxes. These are the things you need to do research and development for. So that part was always missing. So definitely just like understanding your finances, because I get so many people when it's time to file taxes that are like, okay, I need to file my business taxes. And I'm like, okay, cool. Where's your financial statement? Well, I don't have that, but here's 12 months of bank statements. And I'm like, girl, that is not that's not going to cut it.
Mhm.
Like you have to do bookkeeping. I can't do the bookkeeping for you with your tax prep fee. Like you really need to understand it. And then a lot of people are like, all right, I did it. Like, how is this going to affect my taxes? Well, you had $55,000 in profit. You're going to get taxed on that. So this is a big IRS bill, state bill, local bill. And again, a lot of people don't understand or connect that part with it. It's like, all right, I'm making the money now. What do I do with it? Put money up for taxes and everything else that comes with it.
Yeah, I think it starts from they, you know, a lot of us start in this industry and we're taking just a couple clients at a time. And then it turns into, wow, we're seeing more clients and now we're busy and now we have
Mhm.
no time for anything else. And it
Mhm.
just gets pushed back, or we realize, oh, something is wrong whenever it's tax time and we have already
Mhm.
spent the money that we're about to need to owe to the IRS. So
Mhm.
let's say somebody's in that situation right now, because I do want to ask like what somebody should do from day one if they're looking to start their own business. But I also want to ask, what about that person who's in that situation right now, who's like, okay, I don't have a financial statement. I don't know where I am financially. What should they do?
So the first step they need to do is consult with an accountant. It can be with me, or if they're already working with a tax accountant. But 9 times out of 10, they should have some type of bookkeeping system in place. Unless you're like a new startup business, is probably okay to like still do everything manually. But once your business starts to grow, taking that time out to like mainly go through bank statements is very time consuming versus getting something like QuickBooks or Zero Wave, to do the bookkeeping for you. I would say definitely update your bookkeeping. So if you don't have QuickBooks, sign up for QuickBooks. And what QuickBooks does is you will link all of your bank accounts and credit card accounts, all business related, of course. Link those to QuickBooks, and it's going to pull in your transactions for the year. So now all of your transactions for 2023 are in QuickBooks. Now you want to tell QuickBooks, okay, I'll let it probably like 1,000, 2,000 transactions, but you have to tell QuickBooks, okay, this transaction is supplies, this is rent, this is my accounting fees, this is income. Like you have to go through and organize it. And when you do that in QuickBooks, it builds this financial statement, your profit and loss statement. And that's what you need for your taxes, because a profit and loss statement is going to tell you how much money your business made. And then, depending on your area, if you're doing sales and services, you can break it out and be very specific. And then here's how much money you spent, but in what category. And then at the bottom is something called a net profit or net loss. That's what you're going to want to really be focused on, because that's what you're going to get taxed on. So anytime you see a net profit on your financial statement, you're going to get taxed on it. If you see a net loss, that means there's no taxes due because you spent more money than you made. But there's no taxes due at the IRS or state level because you can't pay them on a negative, which is $0. So we want to make sure if you're like today listening to this, your your bookkeeping is not up to date, go ahead and work on that bookkeeping, because I'm telling you, it's going to be very frustrating to try to do this like during tax season, where your tax accountant is already very busy. She may not be able to get back to you, right away. And if you, try to get somebody to pay for it, which you can do that, like, we have bookkeeping cleanup services, but now it's going to be very expensive for us to do 12 months of bookkeeping, clean up for you versus you trying to go in there and clean it up. And which is why I advise people to try to keep up with it on a monthly basis.
And a lot of times when you do have somebody else like that's starting on your books and doing your bookkeeping for you, they already have to ask you those questions of like, hey, what was this transaction? So it's easier almost for you to just sign up for QuickBooks and do it anyways, because you're able to say, yep, this is what this was for, because you're already going to have to do that. And it's also nice because you can log in at any time and kind of see where you're at. So I do want to ask about just classifying yourself. A lot of us here, we have like LLCs or something, but then at a certain point, there's a turning point when we should possibly think about switching it to something like a S Corp or something. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so most businesses will start out as an LLC. So an LLC is just the type of business that you have. And that's how you're going to get taxed. When you move up from an LLC to an S Corp, your business is still an LLC, but you're taxed at an S Corp level. And what that just means is, now that you're making a specific amount of money, here's how you can save on income taxes by moving up to an S Corp. But a lot of people always forget about the fine print at the bottom. Like, S Corps really do help you save on income taxes, but there's a lot of like maintenance. So at this point, when you're an S Corp, me personally, I don't recommend it for my beauty clients until we see about like 65, 70K profit. And the reason being is that now that you're moving up to an S Corp, for one, you're going to need a monthly bookkeeper. So you shouldn't be doing your own bookkeeping, because now instead of creating a profit and loss statement, you also have to keep up with your balance sheet, which is another financial statement that has to be reported on your taxes. And at that point is more so you understanding accounting than you trying to like just categorize stuff to create it, a financial statement. And then a lot of points that people always miss too is that you have to put yourself on payroll. And not just like, okay, I'm just going to pay myself $5,000 for the year just to say I pay payroll. It's like you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. And with payroll comes a monthly payroll fee, payroll taxes, state income taxes, unemployment insurance, worker compensation insurance. So there's more expenses that comes with being an S Corp. So yes, you're going to save on the income tax side, but you're also going to be spending more money on the payroll side as well too, because now that you're being taxed as an S Corp, you have to have that payroll being ran. So just depending on your business, yeah, you may have made $60,000 in profit. And that's why I always just ask people before I suggest it, like, how is your business operating? Do you have like seasonality where, the summertime is really booming for you? Or is it like year round? Because if you on there making that 60K 6 months out the year, and then the other 6 months you're very slow, it may not be best for you to do that, because how are you going to pay yourself the salary during the slow months, right? Because you have to pay yourself that reasonable amount. So I always just tell people to, before you even think about it, don't listen to social media, consult with your accountant first, because it may be something that works for your friend's business, but may not work for your business, just depending on the structure of your business.
So let's say you have a client and you can tell that they're nearing this part where they should switch. You would suggest that to them?
Yes, I would suggest that to them. Like, I had a few clients this year where, so I do tax prep, and throughout the year we do quarterly tax payments to the IRS and state. And there were a few clients when it was like Q2, Q3, where their sales just like drastically like increase. And I just told them, hey, it may be the best choice for you to move up to an S Corp. But let's meet. And then I just want to make sure, okay, do you plan on doing the same thing you're doing now? Because some people may have, plan on taking off next year, maybe moving, maybe relocating. So we want to make sure that like, once you move up to an S Corp, the goal is not to move back down to, like, you have to stay in S Corp. But yeah, I met with a few people this year, and I was just like, hey, just, based off of your taxes, this is how much money you will pay in taxes as a single member LLC. This is how much you'll pay as an S Corp, but we also need to pay you as an employee. So this is how much you would need to pay yourself. Here's all the expenses that come through it. And then I just let them make that decision if they want to go ahead and move forward or not. But yeah, just based off of the overall business, I usually do suggest it. And then I let it be the final decision on the business owner.
Okay, let's say there's a lash artist and they're starting to offer training, and so it's kind of they're
Mhm.
opening this other business. Can you talk about that and how to do that properly?
Yeah, so there's two ways. Some people usually just operate still under their same LLC where they just have like a DBA. And then, on their financial statement, it'll show, services that they provided and then training, service income, training income. And then I have some people that completely separate it out. Where it's just, here's my service business where I'm doing, lashes completely, and then I have my training academy. And the reason people split that out is just for liability purposes. So, like, Lord forbid, if something was to happen, if you have everything under one umbrella, and let's just say somebody said, like, hey, Shelby, like, you damaged my eye with that lash glue, and I'm going to sue you for everything you got. If you have the lash business and the training, they could come for everything. If you have the lash business just under that one and then the training under the other, then it's like, okay, I can only come for, the lash business. So there are reasons that you may want to separate it out. And this is why it's also good to have an attorney because, they can advise you on, of course, any legal aspects that comes with it, any costs associated with it. But just depending on the business, I know some people who just completely separate it out just because they don't want to, have those two things mixed.
Mhm. Can you talk a little bit about sales tax, franchise tax, deadlines for those type of things as well? Because those are also
Yeah.
things that you really can't miss.
Yeah. So sales tax is a lot of people always get this confused, especially a lot of my beauty clients. So we'll get something where they're charging customers processing fees for using their credit cards, but they'll put it on Square or Stripe as sales tax.
Oh,
So
no.
processing fees and sales tax are two completely different things. If you want to charge a customer a 3.5% for using a card, you need to create a separate line item. Please don't put that under sales tax. So sales tax is a tax separate than income taxes that you pay to your state for providing a certain service or product in your state, and every state is different. But this is a tax that the consumer pays to you, and you hold on to that money and pay it to the state. So, Shelby, I'm buying some lashes from you. I pay you however much I need to pay you. You charge me the sales tax. I pay you that money, and then depending on your sales tax permit, it'll tell you if you need to pay it monthly or quarterly. You hold on to that money until it's time for you to file your sales tax return, and then when it's time to file, you'll file, and then that money that the customer paid to you, you will go ahead and pay that to the state. So this is something completely separate to income taxes. This is not your money that customers are paying you to go toward your income taxes. This is something that is the state charges for services and goods that are sold within that state.
And the franchise tax, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that filed? And a lot of times we're exempt from that, but isn't that filed when the income tax is filed?
Yeah, so the franchise tax, not every state has it, and it depends on your state. Like I know Texas is a big one too, but usually that's like an annual tax return, and that also depends on your industry and the sales that you provided. But most of my beauty clients I haven't seen had to pay any franchise tax. Yeah.
Yeah, in our state in Texas, we have to file it and we don't have to pay it. But
Yeah.
if you don't file it, that you know,
Yeah, get that fee.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people, even with the sales tax, like a lot of people often forget. For one, you need a sales tax permit, so you can't just go and like start collecting sales tax without having a sales tax permit or certificate. Depending on your state, they call it different things. But even if you don't have any sales for that month, so let's just say like it's January, you're going to take the month off. If you still are required to file sales tax every month, you still need to go in there and tell them, hey, I didn't have any sales for that month. If not, they're going to charge you a penalty and a fee because you're still obligated to file that tax return.
Mm.
And I have seen that oftentimes where a lot of people didn't have any sales tax to pay, but because they didn't file that return, during that month, they were charged penalties and fees for that.
So, can you talk a little bit about the different services you provide, how often you meet with a
Mhm.
client for their deadlines and stuff?
Mhm. Yeah, so I offer two of my main services are monthly accounting and bookkeeping services. So this is for business owners who, are fully dedicated in running their business. They're like, hey, I don't have time for the QuickBooks, nor do I want to learn how to do it. Can you handle that for me? We meet, we go over our finances. Usually if they have any questions, I want to hire or I plan on expanding, how do we handle that? But it's a good service to have for one, because you're not trying to handle the accounting part of it. But you're also making sure that we're updated on everything. So most of my clients that I have on a monthly basis, we'll meet. I'll do their bookkeeping, but then during our meeting, we'll discuss everything. So, hey, based off of your numbers, your inventory is way higher than, we budgeted for. What was that about? Or your sales dip, what was that about? And then also, here's your net profit. So here's how much you need to put up for taxes, because that's what we do on a monthly basis. Here's how much you should have paid yourself on this month. And then here's how much you have left over for like a budget or savings. A profit or savings. So it's good to have that, because a lot of people, if you're not used to putting up money for taxes, and your business just goes from like being a break even to like being very profitable, and then you come to me to get your taxes prepared, and you're like, I owe $15,000. How is that possible? I didn't even put any money up. It's like a big shocker, right? So I always just tell people it's good to put money up on a monthly basis than trying to play catch up at the end of the year. Because if you treat it like how, your W-2 job where they just automatically took the taxes out for you, if you treat it that way on a monthly basis, it makes it so much easier. Of course, paying taxes, nobody likes paying taxes. I'm an accountant, I hate paying taxes, but there's no way around it. So if you're able to, plan for it, put the money up in a separate account for that, it makes your life so much easier. So that's my monthly service I have. And then we do tax prep as well. So for income tax season, January through April, we file income taxes for clients all over the US, federal, state, and local. And then we do sales tax prep monthly or quarterly, depending on your state. And then payroll taxes for people who have employees that we need to submit those payroll taxes for.
Wow. So you kind of just can take care of all of the needs that somebody might have when it comes to accounting, which for some people that probably is like a breath of fresh air to know that like you don't have to really do this alone. So let's say somebody they haven't gone off on their own yet. They haven't even started their business yet. I'm sure that is like a great place, like that you first see someone. Talk to me about what that is like for them when they start working for you. What are those first things that they can expect?
Yeah, so if somebody's like just first starting out, usually when people are first starting out, before we even like think about monthly services, I always just tell people, just to consult with an accountant, because again, the information I can provide you can help you can avoid many mistakes that you may, make without consulting with me. But we want to make sure we have everything set up properly for the foundation. Do you have the proper bank account, a business bank account? You'll be surprised how many people are using their personal account for business, but it happens, right? So making sure we have a business account set up, make sure you have your sales platform set up. Nobody wants to pay the 3 point whatever percent processing fees, but it makes it so much easier, because at the end of the year, when it's time for you to run your sales report, all you got to do is go in there and do it, right? You don't have to try to add up all the deposits that came into your account. Making sure you're set up properly. And then also, again, letting you know how taxes are going to affect your business, because I have gotten a lot of people that went from a W-2 job to being a full-time entrepreneur, and you're used to getting, a refund. And now that you're a business owner, you're like, okay, well, why am I not getting a refund? I kind of explained that to you, right? A refund is overpayment to the IRS for taxes that you already paid. If you're an entrepreneur and you never paid any taxes to the IRS, we kind of wouldn't expect them to give us a refund on money we never paid them, right? So just making sure we have everything set up for them, and then answering any questions that they may have, because a lot of people, come to me and be like, hey, like I'm going to set my business up as an S Corp. Do you think that's right? From the jump, I don't recommend you starting your business as an S Corp. Let's see how your business goes. Let's make sure that you're able to keep up with everything within the business. And then let's see 6 months, 12 months from now, do you need to move to an S Corp? But I think it's just good to be able to get all those financial questions answered when you're first starting out. It's like the best time to be able to do it. That way you're running your business properly as you go. And then as you grow, you're like, okay, I can't handle this anymore. I'm going to pass it off to you. You can handle it. And then, we can meet on a monthly basis to be able to do that.
So I've heard of this on a Dave Ramsey like clip before.
Okay.
And he was saying that, and this is for like employees, I would say, he always used to say like you should never expect like a a refund check because you should be trying to really estimate down to the dollar, like what you actually are going to owe. So is this why it's important to have somebody like you on a business person's, team, basically to help them estimate down to the dollar, like what they are going to owe, not so they're like overpaying and expecting the refund at the end? Because isn't that technically not a good thing? Like, shouldn't you try to get as much as you can, keep as much as you can as you go, but also, like you were saying, set aside what you are going to have to pay? Is that like the best place to be?
So what a tax refund is overpayment, of taxes. So a lot of people get excited, like, I want to have a bigger refund and things like that. You want to make sure that like you're breaking even, especially as a business owner, because if you are getting four, five, $7,000 at tax season, one time, what could you have done with that money throughout the year? So this is why it's important for us to be able to pay our quarterly taxes, because I don't like to overpay the IRS. I'm paying them interest, interest-free money that I could have invested that money in something else, used that to hire a new employee. So it's important to make sure you're keeping up with your quarterly taxes. So there are some refundable credits. So of course, people who have children may go to school. So those are some credits that you can get a credit for that helps you get a refund back. But again, if your goal is to like, kind of break even or not have to worry about it. I have some business owners that have children. They're like, when we file our quarterly taxes, calculate to how much I'm getting for the child tax credit. So that way it reduces how much I owe. But that way I don't have to worry about, getting that refund throughout the year. And now that's $2,000 less that I had to pay for the child tax credit that I would have gotten. But yeah, it's just important to make sure that you're understanding again what a refund is and how you could have utilized that money throughout the year. Like every year I want to make sure, they may be a little bit, over or under that you're getting, either paying the IRS or getting a refund back, but you want to try to get that as close to zero as possible, because again, this is money that you are owed. This is money that you overpaid the IRS. So you never want to get like a big refund of like, $10,000, because that just means you gave the IRS $10,000 extra throughout the year that you could have used, when your car broke down 6 months ago, or when that new piece of equipment you wasn't able to buy. So yeah, a lot of people always kind of get that part a little confused with understanding what a refund really is. And it's more so on a lot of people, when they do become business owners, they kind of start to understand it. But again, on the W-2 side of like people who, who work jobs and have children, they're more the ones that are like fighting for the bigger refunds. But I always just tell them too, like, hey, like just take less taxes out of your paycheck, because this is money you can use throughout the year versus waiting, to get that money during tax season. And then what do people do with the tax refund anyway? They blow it, right? They don't use it on things that they need. So
Yeah.
just trying to educate them on the proper things that they should be doing with that money.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say a business owner like listening to this are like, oh, I know I need to do this stuff. I know there's so much I need to work on. Do you feel like a lot of people hesitate because they might be embarrassed, or can you speak to that person right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we were in a situation, me and my husband, where he could not get on a mortgage because he didn't have any financial statements. He didn't have any tax returns. We were like hood rich, if we would call it that, because, he's paying the bills, but we weren't reporting anything on our taxes. So, once we did, seeing the flow and process of like, okay, this is separating my business from being a hobby versus a business. How can we grow? Because a lot of people, when they're first starting out, it is a hobby. You really enjoy doing it. This is what you want to do. And then it's like, okay, now I have to do it to make money. Now I have to do it to raise my family. Don't feel embarrassed. Like I said, to this day, I still have to tell my husband, hey, make sure you put that money in that bank account. Make sure you give me those receipts. Like, make sure you're doing X, Y, and Z, because again, his brain doesn't function like that. He's a barber, so he just making money, keeping the shop open. And I'm on the back end of like, okay, let's make sure we have all our T's crossed and our I's dotted, because at the end of the year, it makes it so much easier for us to go file our taxes, be able to go get that mortgage, be able to go get that house, that car, that loan, whatever it is. So I always tell people, this is judge free. I do not judge you. I just want you to be able to learn and grow. Working with me, you should be able to grow and understand, how your business finances works. You should not be ashamed for things that you did not know, but you would definitely learn and grow as you're working with me, because I'm big on educating. Even people that just come to me for tax prep, I explain to them, hey, this is why you have a balance doing. Here's what you need to implement into your business. So next year when you come to me, we're not in the same position. And I always just tell people that. So never feel embarrassed or ashamed. I feel the same way. I'm an accountant, but like, when my lashes aren't done, or like when I go to my lawyer and talk about things and I'm not 100% sure on what it is, I feel a little embarrassed, but I know they're an expert in this, so I know that they probably have seen something 10 times worse than what I'm trying to, talk about or handle. So I just tell people, just, reach out when you're ready, because it is a very sensitive topic, but this is very, a judge-free zone. I don't judge you for not knowing how to do something, as long as you're willing to change, because it is uncomfortable. Making those changes are uncomfortable, but being a business owner is not easy. So it's never going to be a smooth sailing.
Yeah. So I do, you kind of mentioned this earlier, just where things should be like on a credit card processing system or something. Even if you're paying the fees, it's better to have that, because you'll get that statement at the end that you can directly give to your accountant. But there's a lot of people out here that they are, still just having people Venmo them or Zelle them or pay in cash. Can you talk about that? What are the harmful effects of doing that?
Yeah, so my biggest no-no is Cash App. I'm a big habit of like, we are not accepting any Cash App transactions, but I know there are some customers that like to, tip you in cash or Venmo and Zelle. But it makes your life easier just having one sales platform, because at the end of the year, like I said, when we look at your sales, if we say, okay, Shelby, how much did you make? Oh, let me pull up Square real quick. Square's going to tell me I made 500,000. I know that's how much is in there. I know for sure all the money went into my bank account. You don't have to worry about, okay, well, Square says 400,000. I know Brandi gave me about 3,000 in cash. I know some other people, Zelle, like it just gets very confusing and overwhelming. And it begin, because you're not a finance person, an accounting person. Once you get past a certain point, it gets very overwhelming for you. And a lot of people just shut down, stop it, forget about it, push it under the rug. And that's usually what happens. So the easier, and keeping things very simple and easy, to make your life easier, to make my life easier, is helpful, because again, finance isn't the best part of everybody's business. You guys don't enjoy that part. So that's why it's important to, just keep things as organized as possible, because trying to do all that and then still run your business, still, handle your employees, still try to go out there and network, it's a lot. So we can simplify at least the finance part. It's going to make your job so much easier.
Would somebody be kind of asking for an audit if they do stuff like that long term? But that
So, I mean, because I still have clients, some of my beauty clients will still receive some like payments in like Zelle or Apple Pay. But I always tell them to still go into like Regaro Acuity and mark that as paid, and then mark it how it was paid, because now in your Regaro system or your Acuity system, when you print it out at the end of the year, it'll say, yeah, you made 500,000. And here's all this, I made X amount in cash, I made X amount Apple Pay, Venmo, credit card. So that'll also, make it easier. But again, you have to remember to go in there and mark it as paid as a separate transaction. As long as you're able to do that, it's still fine, because again, there are some customers that, pay that way or want to tip you with Apple Pay or cash, but you have to make sure that you are, for one, marking it in your sales platform, but then you also have to make sure that cash makes it into the bank account, because now you're asking for an audit. Because if your sales platform say you made 500,000 and your bank account only showed 300,000, there's a disconnect, right? So you want to make sure, if you're not really good with money, I would say I would cut out the cash payments. If you're good with money, like I have some clients, we have a cash envelope. You just take that at the end of the week, deposit all that money to the bank, but that money has to make it to the bank, right? Because a lot of times when you get paid in cash and there's like, oh, there's a Chick-fil-A, and then there's a Target, and then there's a Starbucks. So that 150 done turned into about $4.32. And then at that point, you're like, I'm gonna just put in my change in my car, and then I'll try again next week.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, I feel like it's almost easy for things to just go awry, but yeah, that is awesome. You've given so much awesome information in this episode. If somebody is wanting to work with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so they can reach me through Instagram. So my Instagram is Fulton's with as accounting dot Fulton's accounting. My website is fultonsaccounting.com. You can also send me an email at info@fultonsaccounting.com. And we can set up a consultation just to see where you are. Hey, like I need an accountant on a monthly basis, and just based off of their, business, I'm like, hey, maybe this is the route we should go. You probably don't need me on a monthly basis. Here's the services I can provide for you, but I would say just set up that consultation so we can meet and see what's best for your business, and then seeing, how we can grow. A lot of people are just that first initial conversation and step is the hardest because, again, a lot of people feel embarrassed or ashamed to just reach out and be like, hey, like, I know I wasn't supposed to be doing this year. Or I know my taxes are 2 years behind. Like, you're probably going to hate me. And people say that all the time. And I'm like, listen,
Oh.
I have had people come to me, no lie, like 7 years back though. So it's fine. Like, of course, we don't want you to be that business, but I'd rather you reach out sooner or later. But that's what usually people just do. It gets pushed under the rug, and then like, all right, next year, and then next year, and then next thing you know is years on top of years. So just reach out whenever you're ready. Like I said, I'm very comfortable. I mean, I'm very friendly. I love talking about finances and taxes. If you go to my Instagram, you see I try to make finances and taxes a little fun because this is not a very fun topic, but I try to make it as interesting as possible.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming
No
on and sharing all
problem.
this with us. You've made it very digestible and um almost just like, okay, I got this. Like we can all
Yeah.
do this. We
We
got it.
yeah, we all can do it. We all can do it. Again, it's just getting started. That's the hardest and most uncomfortable part. But if you want to be a millionaire, if you want your business to grow and succeed, you have to shake that off because you can't ride this wave of like running my business as a hobby and still doing things the incorrect way. Like, yeah, it's going to be very uncomfortable, but let's get you to a place where you are able to really enjoy life and be the CEO and run your business properly. We got to get these things in order right now.
Mhm. Exactly. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.